Hello again everyone, welcome back, thanks for visiting once again. Moving on now with the Corsair. As you know, it's going to be an FAA version of the Corsair F4 U1D. Now it's a Mark 3 or a Mark 4 I think I'm going after. I'll confirm that a bit later on, but a little bit more progress, a little bit more things to do, and as you can see we've got this buttoned up together. What I've done with this is used a bit of Mr. Surfacer just to see if I can tease out the gaps here. I haven't quite finished that because I wanted to show you how I do things here. I think I've mentioned it before, but essentially what you can do here is you can paint in some Mr. Surfacer, and I use this stuff, which is Mr. Dissolved Putty and Mr. Surfacer Finishing Surfacer 1500. You can use the 500 if you want, but I mix the two together and just paint it into the gaps with a Gashold brush that I keep for just such purpose. Let it dry, again all the gaps here, and then what you can do is use a bit of what's it called, leveling thinner, and one of these, and you just rub, you soak the pad in the leveling thinner and rub right angles like this, not that way because you rub all the stuff off. Rub it at right angles away there and it disappears and leaves you with a filled gap. And you can particularly see that just there. Let's just zero in and let you see that there. You can see just in let's take that thing off, there we go. Just in here you can see where the Mr. Surfacer has been filled in, and using a Mark 1 fingernail there's no real legend that is left there, so you have a situation therefore where gaps disappear, and I think that's a rather easy way of doing things. It saves you having to sand. I did do a bit of sanding here, and indeed under here, because some of the gaps were a little bit more severe than I'd anticipated, but I've rescribed in those lines there, as you can see. So I have just a one little thing to finish there on this, and we could just briefly have at that. Let's get my little bottle of leveling thinner, put some on there, chuck away what I don't want back into the bottle, just give that a quick squeeze out, put that away back over there, and find ourselves a soft they call them Q-tips in America, don't they? They're cotton buds over here. And then what we can do then is just give a quick rub here, and what we'll see is the effect starts to happen fairly quickly as we press gently on this. You can see at the top there it's happened rather rapidly. There you go. You rub away the Mr. Surfacer, and it's left in the gap that where you want it, and it's not where you don't want it. And as you can see, I'll just zero in a little bit on that for you so that you can see it as we go. As you can see, it just pulls away the excess matter that you don't need, leaving you with a gap that you want, or a gap that you filled gap that you don't want. Let's go back on camera for you there. As you can see, so the effect is quite quick, and pretty straightforward really. Now, I can't say that this is a method of my own devising. I suspect I've reinvented the wheel in some manner, and I'm sure that other people will have done this themselves. So there we go, let that dry and away we go, and that's the job done. So it's pretty straightforward really. I've put the tailplane on, as you can see, but just a quick point out here that the securing struts that run from these tailplanes meet in the middle here, so you're going to have to do some additional painting here, because you now got this great big grey and Mr. Surfacer filled gap that I've put in, so that you need to be painting in a mixture of zinc chromate yellow and green into there to match here, I mean, not too much of it will be seen, so that you could go a little bit different. In terms of the push rods, the actuation rods, I've made some little modifications here where I can, with a small nickel silver wire in here, and all you do is cut away the section, because what you've got is, this is very small here. It looks a little monolithic, as you can see, but with these longer ones you can pull them away, and that gives you a bit of extra detail to look at. So you can do that on both sides and on the rudder there. So you then have push rods, and when you move to 132 scale you can do that obviously as well, and that would be more necessary. I suspect actually at 132 there would be a push rod anyway made from plastic, so I would suggest that's probably less necessary. Today, however, what I'm going to do is look at these wings. As you'll know, with the FAA Corsairs, the wings were clipped, so it's 8 inches off each of these wings. Now in scale terms that's about 4.25 millimeters, something along that line, in broad handfuls. And if we get our steel rule here, we can see that 4.25 millimeters is just about at the line of that seam there. So we can see that seam line just there, so we can cut off just outside of that. And I have a saw that I can use to do that, which is this devil here. Let's do that out there. So that's a 32 TPI saw that I acquired some while ago. I find with these things, you get them, you don't use them very often, but when you do have them, they're really necessary and very useful. There are other options. You can use these things that look a bit like razor blades. This is Checkmaster kits, this thing, and you can get them in a number of grades in terms of teeth per inch TPI. That's a very fine grade on that side, and that's a somewhat coarser grade. So when you're sawing narrow things, like for example this little round thing here, you might want to choose a fine grade, because then you get as many teeth as possible in touch with the work, and that stops the saw from chattering. In this particular case, we're going to be okay, because we're pretty much sawing onto a flat surface. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to saw down from the top rather than up from the bottom, and I'll have out that right now. So I'm going to go outboard of that line and try and hold the saw as vertically as I can, and give myself the best possible chance of doing this. There we go. So it's the starting which is the difficult bit. Gentle but firm with the old saw there, and just move back and forth to take that section off. Have a quick check. That seems to be going through okay. And you see how remarkably clean the cut is. These fine saws are really very good. And I can see the light on either side of this here, so I know that my saw is getting close to the other side of the work. There we go. And we've clipped off that end there. So we're just looking at that. So we now have a clipped wing that we can start to address with the file at some stage. So again, we'll do the same on the other side, and we'll saw again down from the top. Let's just sweep that away a bit, and same thing as before. Go slightly inboard. Let's just zero out again so that you can see this. There we go. So slightly outboard of that seam line, and use my finger as a marker, as a starter, as it were. Again, gently but firmly hold the work, and we keep the saw level because we can see the light coming through at either side, so we can keep the saw level and as vertical as possible, and just saw that through there. It'll feel daunting at first to do this, but it's fairly straightforward, particularly with a big saw like this. It shouldn't be too difficult at all. And how far through are we? Nearly there actually. So oh, and that broke off, but that's okay. So once again, we'll just have a quick look here under the light, and you can see that on the right hand side wing I've gone a little bit further outwards, and the inboard wing and the lower wing there, that other one, it's about a little bit further back. Let's put my saw away over there. So what I can then do is I'll discard those for a minute. Just clean off the saw blade a minute. That's all nice and clean now. And I'll put that away properly a bit later, so we can take a file. I'm going to use a 220 grit filing stick to begin with, and just see if we can clean that up just there and see how near we can get to that mark, because after that what we're going to then do is I'm going to put some a little bit of putty on that, and we should then have a quick look at that under the reflector and under the magnifier. And file that down. See, that's getting closer now. I know I'm preaching to the converted here, but there's a temptation to file in a slightly curved direction now. We want to try and avoid that if we possibly can. It is quite difficult because the work moves in your hand, and then this moves in your hand as well. So it's all a bit tough, really. So we'll keep chuntering away there. Quick look under the magnifier again. I have to look under this because my eyes aren't particularly good, and I think we're quite near there now. Oh, that's not clever, is it? So we'll need a finer finer file to just finish that off, but it's getting there. I can really get quite close to the seam line, that panel line that we had there, and I want to try and get as evenly close on both sides as I can. I'll do the same thing on this one. Let's move that aside for a second. And I'm not trying to make this a how-to, but a sort of how I do it type of thing. I don't think that I'm particularly helpful as some sort of giver of tutorials. There are other people that do that and probably do it rather, well, in fact certainly do it rather better than I do. But this is if you like, a blog of my personal experiences, which I hope that you enjoy. Some of you have been kind enough to tell me that you do, and to those people who've subscribed, I say, well, thank you very much. Yeah, I've still got to go quite a distance there, so I can have at that fairly roughly. Yeah, see, that's near there, but not so much here by the look of it. Yeah, so what the file's slipped slightly that way, so I need to just make sure I'm slightly at an angle away, as you can see. And thing with plastic and filing, you can go too far very quickly, and once you've gone too far, you'll never get it back. But I know that's an obvious statement to make, and for you people out there in modelling land, you're probably saying, yeah, Zinner's old boy, we know that already, don't tell us that. So yeah, I think we're about there with those two. Yes, I'll even them up outside of the video, and we'll have to clean up all this work. As you can see, all the dust has gone in there, but because this is quite close together underneath here, I think that we won't need too much in the way of putty. I was thinking there's going to be quite a lot, but I'm then going to have to cut out the front of the wing section here to accommodate that little light, and I have them here. I did have one there. I've now lost it. It's gone somewhere on the bench. Is that it? Yeah, that's one of them. They're really tiny. I'm going to leave that there for now because they're really tiny. But I'm going to cut out a section here. Let's move the magnifier away, and then we can show you what's going on here. So with this, I'm going to cut a section away of this front corner to accommodate the flying lights, and I'll do that on both sides and give this a damn good clean up, and then just attack this with a bit of putty, and then file that clean there, so that we'll then have a clipped wing variant, and that's that section accomplished and so on. Just as a final clean up on this, I've started to put in pipe work into the wells using a mixture of 0.6 and 0.3 millimeter lead wires. Because lead wire's really easy to work with, you can get this stuff in really quite easily, and I've used some tape there just to put some strapping in and things of this kind, but there's going to be 4 or 5 wires going in and across here, so I should be doing that over the course of the next few days or so, as and when I get the time going along, and so we're moving along in shall we say very much the right direction, which I hope that you'll both agree with and approve of. The other thing I said I was going to talk about quickly was the tail wheel. So this is the compressed tail wheel for the Corsair. There's another one which is longer, and I've done some testing on this. Now these look a bit monolithic on their own, so I thought, well, I'll see if I can open up some gaps, and it is indeed possible to open up gaps with a small drill and one of those big whizzy drill bit things. This is the sort of thing I've got, goes up to 25,000 RPM, but I use it at 5,000 pretty much of the time, and you can get through that fairly easily, so I shall do that with the longer wheel as well. So there we are, some updates and other bits and pieces for you, and thanks very much for watching once again. I'm delighted that you came along, and I hope you found something in there to interest you, including some butchery of wings and things of that kind. I said to myself I wouldn't use the word butchery, but I did, but there we are. So look, thanks very much from me, and from the erstwhile pilot who has taken a part in this now, and who has a piece of sprue nib poking out of his arm. I'll take that off for the next one, but I shall bid my goodbyes right now. Have a good time on your own modelling desks, and I hope your projects are going well, and I look forward to seeing you the next time you come and visit. Thanks very much for calling. Bye bye.